Hey guys, welcome to Executive Espresso Caffeinated Conversations with me, Doc Heath, and we have a great guest here today. I've been so looking forward to having Ed on the show, and Ed will be here in a minute. Oh, not that Mr. Ed. We have a different Mr. Ed, but he'll be right up next, and he is a author, entrepreneur, social media personality. He just ticked off his 1 millionth follower on the platform formerly known as Twitter, which is now just a letter of the alphabet. Isn't that so much simpler? Just hit X and it brings you up to your X page. He is a veteran Twitter tussler with a former president. He actually got, I guess, excommunicated by Twitter, but restored into good graces by the new owners of X. Everybody knows who that is. And he is one half of KrassenCast, defending what's left. I love a good pun. And as I said, he just topped 1 million viewers or followers on X. And so, Ed, hey, man, welcome to the show. Tell us what I left out.
I think you covered most of it. Good job.
I guess I should resist calling you Mr. Ed, but I guess you have to be of a certain age to even remember that show. But by the way, that's where Clint Eastwood got his start.
Really? I
Yeah,
did not know that.
Clint Eastwood was on the series Mr. Ed, and I don't know if that was his first thing to do, but one of his early things to do. But hey, we're going to talk about some stuff here about all the changes going on the X platform. So tell us, how do we, you're out there in the in the fray, and you just topped 1 million followers. Did you have a special celebration?
No celebration. I know my wife was kind of excited about it, but other than that, not really too much excitement around it. It's just another number, I think.
I guess after a while it does get to be a number. But tell us some things about how the algorithm is changing, how things are
Yes.
changing on X under new ownership.
So when Musk took over, I think he wanted to change a lot of the way X, formerly Twitter, works, and he wants to create more of a discussion between people, and he's really started to value that, and the algorithms showing that as well. So if you can create conversation on X, you're going to get a boost in the algorithm. If you can get people to take part in conversations surrounding your post, I would say tweet, but it's no longer a tweet, it's a post, you're going to get a boost in the algorithm. Of course, it's still all tied into followers and likes and repost as well, but it's mostly about conversation now. And I think you'll find that to be pretty accurate if you've been using X at all in the last couple of months.
And what are some of the big differences you think people are noticing that are they trying to get rid of some of the I don't know, the negativity and the people attacking each other and make it more of a nice platform for people?
Yeah, so I mean, Musk and Linda Yaccarino, the CEO, they have a saying, freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And of course, that was a problem with Jack Dorsey on Twitter. A lot of people, especially conservatives on the right, had an issue with Dorsey because he was censoring people and he was censoring posts, or I guess I should say Twitter was censoring. And they didn't like that. They said, this is very anti-free speech. Why censor content that you don't agree with or content that you think is inaccurate? And when Musk came along, his idea was to allow for the freedom of speech, but he doesn't always allow for the freedom of reach. He can still deboost certain topics. He can still deboost certain users, hate speech, however you want to define that, spam, that can be deboosted as well. And he's not really kicking people off the platform like the Twitter 1.0 did that. There's still people who have been banned. There's still people who will remain banned, but it's not happening at such a high level that like it did in the years past.
A complaint that I'm hearing, and I've had myself, is the lack of specificity. I would hope that Twitter would become more user friendly in educating its users specifically about what is okay and what is not okay. But my experience has been when you ask that question, you get generalities. And
Yeah.
so you just don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot.
It really is. And I think it's hard. It's hard to be specific, right? Like you can't list out every single thing that's going to get your post deboosted, every single way of saying everything, So it's hard. I always said, there has to be a line drawn somewhere. You have to draw a line of what's okay and what's not okay. It can't just be a free for all because then the platform would fail. There would be illegal things going on the platform. There'd be spam everywhere. So you have to have some sort of line. You draw, I think Elon Musk's line is a very much more liberal line, and liberal in the sense of actions, not politics, right? He lets a lot more go. He lets a lot more go, but there's still going to be people complaining. There still are people complaining because he does have to draw a line somewhere. I think when it comes to misinformation, he has implemented something called community notes on X. So instead of just deleting misinformation and banning the accounts posting them, what he does is he allows the community themselves to sort of police misinformation. And they have a whole system. Like, so if I say your post was misinformation and John over here disagrees with me, they'll look and see like where I agreed with him in the past to kind of get like people from both sides having to agree. So like maybe a liberal and a conservative would have to agree that is misinformation for something to be marked as
Oh,
misinformation.
okay.
So it's a whole algorithm that's pretty basic the way I explained it, and it's hard for me to explain, but they
Is
do
it
have an
kind of more of
algorithm.
a democratic platform where we kind of all got to take a vote as to whether it's misinformation or not? Because let's just take my field of psychology. I am dyed in the wool cognitive behavioral. I mean, everything starts with mindset, thought process. I decide, but there are people that they don't, in my field, that they don't believe that at all. And so it would take people from both sides of that aisle, so to speak, to get me deboosted.
Yeah, and of course you don't really know who's on which side of the aisle, but the algorithm looks at, it's like, for example, say both of us agreed on five different community notes over the past month, and then there's another one that comes up and we both agree again. That's not really going to hold much weight, but if I happen to disagree with you there, then mine might hold more weight or yours might hold more weight depending on who else also agreed or disagreed. So it's this algorithm to kind of try and pull out the biases. And it's not 100% perfect. I've seen a lot of issues where it hasn't worked, but it is, I think, a step in the right direction. I think as time goes on and these community notes creators and voters build up reputations for themselves, and the algorithm has more time to kind of build its own AI like brain, I guess you could say, I think it has a lot of potential for success.
Yeah, I was very doubtful at first, and I'm not a very knowledgeable Twitter guy or X guy, fairly new on the platform, and I had my doubts when Musk took it over. But then I kind of saw something. I wasn't really sure what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it just seemed to be better. And I like the whole thing where um, I'm just free speech all day long. I think there's things that you shouldn't be able to say, but I also think that our whole country, and I think we're forgetting this, is built on ideas happen out of just the freedom to speak ideas. And the most free I can ever be is to defend what you have to say, even if I disagree with it. And what I've seen on Twitter is you'll have accounts with huge followings that will actually leverage their followers into a troll army to attack a user and make multiple complaints about them because they disagree with that user for no other intent, just to get rid of them, just to limit their being able to speak what they believe. And I think that that's very dangerous on any platform. So I hope that somewhat Musk is doing is going to take care of that. Do you
Yeah, like
think?
I think you'll notice if you're just reading comments on different posts, I think you'll notice that the blue checks are boosted toward the top and subscribers are boosted toward the top, and everyone else is kind of pushed down. So I think it makes sure that those replying to you and those whose comments get more prominence are actually real people and not just somebody that could be creating multiple accounts just to troll someone. So the blue accounts, of course, have an $8 a month fee behind them. And a lot of people are like, ah, crap, well, I'm not paying $8 a month for this. But in reality, I think it's a great way to ensure that these are like serious people and not just somebody that's creating multiple accounts or some bad actor that's creating multiple accounts just to, change the narrative on social media. Because it'll get expensive if you start paying for, like hundreds or thousands of accounts. That's $800 to $8,000
Wow.
a month.
I had not considered that effect. I mean, it makes sense to me that if you're asking for a higher level of service and attention, more or less a concierge service, that you're going to pay a fee for that. But I think that's a great idea because it would eliminate a lot of people creating all these accounts and things like that. Well, having said that, what are some things you think that maybe business owners and entrepreneurs need to be aware of to keep themselves and their businesses out of hot water? Because I think Musk's approach is to make Twitter, well, X, kind of the everything app where literally you can go there and watch a movie, reserve a table at a restaurant, order products. I think he really wants to turn X into more of a Amazon type entity. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, he wants it to be the everything app. And in doing so, you can kind of guess what's going to penalize you on the app. That's linking outside of the everything app. He wants to keep everything inside. If you link out, that's going to hurt you in the algorithm. Your posts aren't going to get as many views. Just by me posting the link to this podcast
I
this
thought
morning,
about
I
that.
posted the YouTube link, and I was like, should I do it or should I not?
I
And
know.
it didn't really do that well because I had a YouTube link in it, right? So
Wow.
it's just stuff like that, like is going
So
to be
what do you so what
penalized.
do you do? I mean, how can you? Is there any way around that?
Yeah, there are, and I don't know how. Like what I say now might not be relevant in 3 days from now
Yeah,
because
yeah.
somebody might realize, oh, this is the way people are getting around it. But what a lot of people do is they make their original post without the links, and then they reply to the post
Ah,
with a link. But I mean, that reply is going to get a lot less engagement, but people
yeah.
will see it if they're clicking through to read the comments, to read more of the tweet. I focus a lot on long form posts too. Anything over 280 characters, I try to stay between like 300 and like 400 characters because every additional second that a post gets, that when somebody clicks on a post to read it, the more time spent on that post, I think is up to like 2 minutes, gets a boost in the algorithm. And every time
Wow.
somebody just clicks on that post, it gets a boost. So if you're over 280 characters, if somebody wants to read more, they have to click on that post to read more. So that boosts you in the algorithm as well.
And I think that's very essential, especially for businesses. Don't put out crappy posts because people won't read it. I think it's
Exactly.
it's really driving people to be top level writers because you have to write copy in a way that it drags or leads people further and further down the page. And if it's just this clickbait stuff that's very generic, then people are going to stop reading. But I have a challenge to that because I ask people that question a lot. And just this morning, I talked to a creator, and I think he has, I don't know, 200,000 amongst all his accounts, maybe 300,000 followers. And he said something about posting threads. And I said, man, I thought threads were dead. And he said, well, I don't like posting long form content because people don't read it. And there's actually memes out there that say something like, I ain't going to read all that or something. So what's a creator to do? Which way do you go?
That's a good question because I hear people say threads are better. I hear people say long form content is better. For me, long form content does so much better than threads, like much better. But other people I hear say that threads are doing a lot better for them. So I guess it depends on your audience. Like meme
Ah,
accounts are probably going to do better with threads. I have people who follow me for politics mostly, politics, technology, but politics is the most vast number of followers I have. And I tend to write a lot. So I think I think just having that one post with all the information in it that everybody can go to gives it a boost in the algorithm because everybody's staying there for a certain amount of time. If you have a thread, the same thing happens there, right? So somebody clicks on the thread, the first post, it opens up the entire thread and people stay there and read more of the content as well. So I think it just depends on what your audience likes. And for me, the threads just don't really work. But I've talked
Mm.
to people like the individual you spoke to where threads work a lot better for them. So it's really kind of hard. You just got to test both of them, I think.
Might it make sense that number one, you do consider your audience, what your audience enjoys reading, and if you look at Stephen King, by the way, one of my favorite authors, do you know what I think the last time I looked it up, what reading level, grade level he writes at?
No, I don't know. What is
He
it?
writes
Something
at a
like
fifth grade reading level.
really? That's
Fifth
interesting.
grade reading level. Dean Koontz, who's another favorite writer of mine, I think he writes at a 10th or 11th grade reading level. And
Interesting.
so I think you need to consider your audience. But then the other thing, and of course, you're so much more experienced than I am, but I'm just kind of coming at it from a psychological perspective, social psychology, that is use whichever post honors the content. And so if your content, it's much more well represented with a thread, then do that. And if it's long form, and maybe, I don't know, maybe some A/B testing.
So for the only time I use threads is when I have additional content I want to add. So I might write a post out, and like maybe it's a breaking news story. I write it out, and then three other things happen. So as the story gets updated, I might update it with another reply to my original post, which essentially creates a thread. So that's the only time I use it. But other people have used it very successfully and just breaking up posts and having a bunch of short posts, creating all of the content via thread.
I was thinking a little bit conspiratorially that maybe when that other guy, what's his name? He started some little thing called Threads.
Yeah,
I can't remember
Mark
who that
Zuckerberg,
was, but I kind of wondered,
the enemy.
is there some backstory that X is gonna not focus so much on Threads because now that other guy's doing it, and they're gonna kind of get away from it. But
Yeah, that's
hopefully ears aren't listening here. What do you think about the new Threads platform?
I tried it out when it first came along, but it's really no different than X. Like it's pretty much just a carbon copy of it. And I feel like the audience over there and the people over there are more sucked in by photos and videos, whereas on X people like the written content.
Yeah.
So I'm not somebody that does much like photography or video journalism other than our video cast. So I think just X works best for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, kind of share with us some stuff about Web3 monetization. What might business owners, entrepreneurs need to know about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I was like from the time I was banned by Twitter until when I came back, I was really deep into Web3, and I still am to some degree. I was on a platform called DSO. It's a Web3 social media platform, basically like Twitter on the blockchain. Um, I also built a few apps over the past 3 to 4 years. Nothing that has been super successful, but I do think Web3 has a future. I just don't know how much. Like, there's people who say Web3 is a future of social media. I don't know. We have DSO, the blockchain. We have Lens, which is another blockchain built on another protocol built on Ethereum. We have Friendtech, which is like huge right now. It's also built on Base, I believe. Uh, so we keep seeing this like repeated pattern of Web3. We had NFTs that were super big for like a year and a half to 2 years, and they've kind of died out. I think it's a lot of the crypto space that's kind of trying to expand its presence, and I don't think the mainstream's really ready for that yet. At least they don't think they are. So I think it's going to take time. I do think that Web3 will be a big part of the future of the internet, but I don't know if it happens overnight. It might take 5 or 10 years to really kind of grab hold of this space.
What would you say would be the main components of Web3 that for those that aren't in the know about what it is?
Yeah, so I mean, Web3 is essentially an internet that is not controlled by one entity, kind of like how, like Bitcoin is money that's not controlled by a central bank. So nobody's actually in charge of Bitcoin. Nobody can make the laws of Bitcoin. Miners can get together and kind of create their rules of sort, but nobody's actually in control. There's no entity that can shut it down either, which is big for a lot of people. Uh, I was in the early 2000s. There are these things called e-currencies, and the government hated them. They were anonymous. People could send money back and forth internationally in a matter of seconds, but the government hated it because they are tools of money laundering, right? Because nobody could be tracked. A criminal is going to use that because you can't track them. Whereas Bitcoin, I mean, is not really as anonymous as e-currencies because everything happens on chain and you can see every single transaction. So I think people like the idea of being broken away from a government. People don't like having to have the Fed be to say, oh, we're going to just print more money. So I think that's why Bitcoin kind of grabbed hold. But the same can be said of the internet. If you're for a free and open internet, I think the internet on a blockchain is really the next step because nobody can control it. Your content that you create is there essentially for eternity, and nobody can remove it. So,
Well, that's a big thing and I keep hitting my camera, and that's a big thing in podcasting that we're told is you don't want to be beholden to one single platform because if the platform goes away, all your content goes away. You really need to be kind of platform agnostic and have your own stuff. So I think for creators, maybe it gives you a lot more control of your content, and you can't just be shut down because somebody, the political winds change or something or other.
yeah, I mean that's how DeSo is a blockchain works. That's the one I was on for a while, and I still am on there. I'm just not prominent on there like I used to be. Basically, the database that stores all the data is on a blockchain, right? But anybody can build an app on top of that database and pull and push data into and out of it. So let's say Twitter was on a blockchain. That means that all the data is open for everyone to use. So I could create my own Twitter, but maybe I want to change it a little bit and only show posts from certain users or certain type of content or maybe just videos. I could do that by just pulling the videos from the Twitter database if it was open on the blockchain. So I think it prevents you from getting shut out too, because if Twitter would shut me down, I could always jump to the other app that's using that same exact database.
I have a quick question about that, a bit of a non sequitur. Do you remember getting the notice or coming aware that Twitter had shut you down? I mean, you,
Yeah, so Brian remembers the exact date because I think it was like his wife's birthday or something.
oh no.
but but yeah, I remember both of us. It happened to both of us at the exact same time. We got a notice saying you've been banned from Twitter for buying accounts or
Yeah.
interactions. And we're like, what happened? Like how we didn't do that? Like we had the original emails from when we created our accounts. And we actually
Wow.
threatened to sue Twitter. Like we hired an attorney and we're like, this is defamation because you told Fox News that we bought our accounts. There are all these like conspiracies, like the Krassensteins were running bot farms. The Krassensteins bought their accounts and were doing this and that. And it wasn't true. So the reason for that was like, I understand why Twitter thought that because we had both started this fan club website, ay.com, back years ago. I think it was 2011 or 2012. And my account started out as a Justin Bieber fan club. And
Oh
for the
yeah, I
record,
read that.
I'm not a Justin Bieber fan, but it
I'm
was
so
for
happy to
our
hear
business.
that.
And Brian was the Jonas Brothers fan club. But then when Trump came to office, I renamed my account to, I think it was Donald Trump Exposed or something like
Oh
that. And
boy.
Brian was impeached Donald Trump. And we had a lot of followers. So we're like, okay, we're just going to rename the
Yeah,
account and see what
I
happens.
just want to show folks that this is Ed has photoshopped Trump's head onto his own body. This is
Yeah,
actually
not quite.
Ed's body. I
But
saw you doing squats. You've got a little gym there. You're doing a pretty hefty set of squats there.
yeah, I try
But
and get to
but
the gym 5 days a week.
but oh, that's awesome. So you started this whole Trump thing, and then that led to maybe some
Yeah,
more hot water, right?
we made the biggest mistake of our lives, but also I think it ended up paying off in renaming those accounts from Impeach Donald Trump and Donald Trump Exposed to Ed Krassenstein and Brian Krassenstein. So like we're like, okay, why not just use our real names? And like we made a name for ourselves, right? Like we actually like we're on podcast now like this because we changed it to our name. You wouldn't have invited me on here if I was called Donald Trump Exposed, right?
I
but
don't know.
but at the
Maybe that
same
that
time,
sounds kind of fun.
at the same time, it brought a lot of hate and a lot of haters.
Yeah, yeah.
Brian got death threats. I got death
Isn't that
threats.
crazy?
Yeah,
I've had people tell me, and this is just terrible. It really, even in psychology, it blows my mind. But I could, kind of psychomyologize it. But people that disagree with what I say, I've had people literally say, "You should go kill yourself." Which, I mean, if you're saying that to me, it has zero effect. I
yeah,
mean, literally zero effect. But what's really scary is if you're saying it to me, you're probably saying it to other people that the effect is non-zero, and that's really scary. So I heard one time, or I read somewhere that maybe you have the record for most trolls following you than anybody on social media.
I would believe it. But since coming back though, we kind of changed our stance, and we're not like as trollish, I guess you could say. We're just trying to create dialogue, and that was something we decided on before Elon Musk said, "Oh, I want dialogue." Like we actually sat down when we got our accounts back, and we're like, "What are we gonna do? I don't want to have death threats sent to me in the mail." Like we literally had letters sent to us with our picture cut out and a target drawn over our faces.
Holy
Brian had
crap!
Brian had a bomb threat called into the local airport under his name, and the FBI showed up at his house. So I mean,
Oh,
it
he
was
was
getting
swatted. He was
yeah,
swatted. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And it was just our wives were like, this is just getting to be too much.
yeah,
You really shouldn't be doing it. And it wasn't benefit. We weren't making money off of it. Like a lot of
yeah.
people are claiming, oh, they're paid by the DNC or George Soros. No, we never made a dime off of it, other than the fact that we did have a political website at one point and we directed some traffic to that, but we weren't getting paid to tweet like a lot of people said. So it wasn't really much benefit other than just to express my opinion and kind of like try and push my view onto other people. And I realized that that doesn't work. You can't get somebody to just take on your view if you push hard enough, right? You need to have open dialogue, you need to have a conversation, and you need to kind of understand where they're coming from and why they think that way, and explain to them why you think that the way you do as well. And I think that's good for humanity. I think it's good for America in general.
Well, and the other thing I came to realize, even being really early on in Twitter, because my background, I just love debate. I mean, I just love sharing ideas. I don't take it personally. I could care less if everybody believes what I believe. I think that you have the right to believe whatever you want to believe. But what I was missing is literally not everybody is capable of entertaining a thought that disagrees with their own thinking. Um, and you're right. It does no good. It's like trying to drive a nail into a concrete floor. You're going to bend the nail and probably chip your hammer. And so from the get go, I started thinking I could have some honest debates, but people don't want that. Most people don't want that. They just want their preconceived notions confirmed. And I
And what
think,
does it do, right? Like, I mean, like if you believe this, if you believe X equals 5 and I believe X equals 3, and I tell you, no, X equals 3, it's just going to get you mad. You're going to get angry at me and you're going to be like, I really believe X equals 5 now. And he's just a stupid moron.
people really do. They really just double down. Well, speaking of that, you seem to be a very healthy guy and a very positive outlook. So, but what's your current top mental struggle? What do you struggle with the most these days yourself?
I would say like just turning the switch off. Like when I'm done for the night and just like being able to turn it off and not think about stuff. Like I
Ah,
might like I just keep my mind just keeps coming back to like maybe a tweet I made or a comment that somebody made or a discussion I had with someone, and I have a hard time just like hitting that off switch sometimes, and even like laying in bed at night, like I just want to fall asleep and I start thinking about stuff.
have you found anything that works?
Um, I don't know. Can't I can't really say I have. I mean, I've tried harder, and I think I've definitely gotten a lot better at this over the years, but I don't really have a solution for it.
That's your default mode network, by the way. The brain goes to what's next, what's next, what's next,
Yeah.
what's next, and of course, mindfulness. I'm a big believer, big teacher, big advocate. It's actually a completely, if I get on camera here, it's actually a completely different system in the brain than the what's next system, you know. But what's your go-to mindset hack? What do you do to kind of focus your brain and take care of those distorted thoughts, as we call them, catastrophizing thoughts? Your best mindset hack?
That's a good question. I think I just try and push negativity down. Like when I see negativity, I just say, why is this bothering me? Like, why should I let this bother me?
Uh
It
huh.
really, it really has no bearing on me. And if I ignore it, it's just gonna, be out of sight. I'm not gonna think about it. And I think I can move on. And it doesn't always work. Like, my mind keeps coming back to it. But I think when I do this enough times, I think I have an ability to kind of just focus on what I'm trying to do.
My two favorite go tos, one is from Marcus Aurelius, who would say that insults are no more than air set in motion, literally air from someone's mouth. And, how can someone's,
And it's
you know,
true, right?
it is true. It's so very true. And then my favorite story is from Epictetus, on which my whole field of cognitive behavioral psychology is based, who one of his students came to him and shared with him an insult that some other teacher had spoken of him. And he famously said, if he knew me better, he would come up with better insults.
Yeah, well,
So,
and that's true too. Like I think on social media, you you just see words on a screen. You don't know the tone of voice they're saying that in. You don't know if they have a smile, a grimace, an angry face. Like you don't know how they're saying it. And I think a lot of people just reach the conclusion that's the worst possible scenario. So like you might say something kind of like joking or sarcastic to me, and most people would read into that as like he's insulting me, and it might not be that way. So I think you just got to kind of realize that the way people type isn't exactly the way they are in real life.
your folks listening, your mantra for that: a insult or perceived insult on a screen. That's just pixels in a pattern on a page. It's just pixels in a pattern on a page. How can that be harmful? How do you maintain? And we have Ed here. Some of my favorite pictures. That really, I wanted to have you on the show about this, but this what really amazes me about Ed, with how busy he is. He focuses on the most important things in life. And just look at that one. That's a great picture. If you're a subscriber to Ed, you've already seen these pictures because he posts it on his feed. So how do you
Yeah.
maintain a healthy balance between family and all the stuff you do on X?
Like I think it was harder for me years ago before I got suspended. And then once I was kicked off Twitter, I'm like, why did I waste so much time on that? And it just didn't make sense, like looking back on it. And my wife was like, you didn't have to be spending that much time on it. What did you really gain anything out of it? And I said to myself, I asked myself, did I really gain anything from what I was doing? And no, I didn't. So I realized that there's many more important things in life. Uh, Definitely, my family, my kids. I always spent time with them, even when I was crazy busy on Twitter before and crazy busy with my businesses before. But I've definitely taken a step back, and I try to be there when my kids come home from school now. Try and do something with them every day. I do go back up to my office maybe for 30 minutes or so after dinner, after I put the kids back to bed, uh, and I have time then. So I mean, I think I do a decent job of balancing my life and my work and everything else.
First things first. Family is always first. And your kids are young, but let me give you a little bit of a parenting alert. Is that here in about 2 weeks? 2 weeks. It'll seem like 2 weeks. your kids will be 24 years old.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean,
Just like that. And you parents that are listening, I think X is great. I love the platform. I love Ed's stuff. I love reading what he and his brother do. But on your deathbed, you will never regret how little time you spent on social media. You
exactly.
will regret how little time you spend with those that matter most. And so have fun on social media, learn the algorithm, do great things, but let your family be your focus. Ed, on the way out, some a positive affirmation or something to share with our listeners?
I think your advice there is really good, and I actually do that a lot. I say, you know, specifically say to myself, like, when I have like hours to live, what am I going to regret? What am I going to wish I did more of? And what am I going to wish I did less of? And I kind of let that help me make decisions a lot. I mean, I guess it's kind of a pretty terrible way of looking at things, like
No, I think it's a
envisioning yourself
fabulous way of
dying.
looking at it. You
But
know,
yeah, I do that because I don't
it,
want to have regrets.
and we will. As a dad that devoted so much time to my family, my son, I still look back. I said to my son one time, I said, "Gosh, where did the time go? It seemed like I was always gone, traveling or business or something like that." And he looked at me and he said, "Dad, I remember maybe 2 or 3 times that you weren't here." In other words, he really wished I'd been gone more. But my point is, I think if you're a healthy dad, there's no way around regretting not spending
Yeah.
more time, and so you can limit that by spending as much time as possible and working your career around your family instead of working your family around your career.
Yeah,
So,
that's great advice.
Ed, thank you for being here. Let me see if we have any other amazing pictures here. There's our two competitors there. What'd your brother say about getting the crap beat out of him on the follower count?
Well, that's just because I was Justin Bieber and he was the Jonas Brothers. I
Popularity,
had an
huh?
advantage from the start, so I'll give that to him.
Yeah, maybe y'all can swap that up and he can be the Bieber fan for a while. But thank you so. Let's see. Let me get back here. And there's the two brothers there. Y'all look. How do, how do you? Let's see. You're the one on the left.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got that little thing on his face there.
Yeah, like so when he was kids, my mom would say Brian with the brown freckle. That's how our friends would tell us apart.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Y'all are quite the pair. Y'all having struggles working together?
No, I mean we've lived together basically our whole lives until I had my first son. So like even when we were married, he lived with us for a little bit until my wife had our baby. He decided to move out. But we've worked together since we started selling baseball cards when we were 13 years old. So we've been in business together our entire lives.
That's awesome. Hey, I saw on your subscriber only uh, account there where you guys were having some type of wrestling match on some trampoline on the water, and it looked like Brian was getting the best of you. So the last thing I'll
No,
show
no,
you guys.
I think I got him. I got him off the trampoline. So
Oh, is that maybe I
I'm gonna
didn't
watch
watch the
that
whole
again.
thing, but it looked like he was getting the better of you. And so I found a photo of Ed's face every time he loses in some contest to his brother. Here's Ed's face when he
Boy,
doesn't win with his brother. He looks just like that.
I probably do. Probably.
Ed, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next week. Have a great day and stay safe on social media.
Thank you. It was a
Bye bye.
pleasure.